this is Stephanie Hansen, and you are listening to the Makers of Minnesota podcast. And we talk to cool people doing cool things. And beer is always a cool thing, right? Everybody loves to talk about beer and everybody gets excited about beer. And earlier this week, I got a shipment of a Minnesota Gold micro brew by Third Street Brewhouse, excuse me. And I right away noticed it. And my guest today is Lee Wallace, and he's going to talk with us about the marketing of this can. But I noticed it right away because it was a slim can. And the case was a different size. And I was like, this is interesting. And then I opened it, and right away I noticed, because I'm a girl, and that's sexist, I'm sure, but I was like, 4.2% alcohol. I like that. Yep. And then I noticed 1.4 grams of carbs, and I really liked that. And then I noticed it was 88 calories. And I was like, okay, are these people marketing this beer to me or what?
well, that's why you got some beer. So, it's a unique beer because it is the lowest carb, lowest calorie beer in the commercial market today. So even the big national brands don't have a beer that's that low in carbs or calories. As a beer.
Nick Ultra, which isn't easy to do.
Yeah, it is lower than Ultra. I know Budweiser has came out with a product that is like zero. But
I tasted it. It's a zero.
Yeah, this one is a beer that I say, it's not a full-bodied beer. So if you're looking for that full-body beer, that's not going to be it. But this is your low carb, low calorie, and I say it has beer flavor. So it tastes like a beer. And sometimes, God darn it, you just want a beer, don't you? It's just, and so
I do. And I just opened it and I tasted it. And the first reaction was it had a really nice smell. And that could be just because I'm opening a can versus, if you have it on draft. But so good smell. And then I tasted it, and it's way beerier than most of the low carb, low calorie beers, which I say that as a good thing, because some of them it's like, okay, I might just as well be drinking water. I did kind of want to have a beer. I also do think, and this isn't very Minnesotan of us, but con limon with lime would be real good in the Minnesota Gold Micro.
Correct. And then the pickle lovers can put a pickle in it too.
I didn't even think about that. Pickle juice.
Yes,
yeah.
People have put pickle in it as well. Lemon, lime. You can mix in whatever you like, but it's really unique. And our brewers up in Cold Spring do a great job. And they really wanted it to be true to a beer. So we didn't deviate from that. And I'm just really proud of the job that they've done. And it's a joy for me just to be able to sell a product like that. And with any of our products from Third Street Brewhouse up in Cold Spring, I can stand behind them. It's really a fun thing to be able to say, I love my job and I love standing behind our products too. So
there's been a real renaissance too, I think, in the beer industry, obviously COVID aside, trying to get more women into the tap rooms, trying to get more women to buy beer on the shelves. And there's been this resurgence of beer makers making malt liquory type seltzers and going for lower calorie there and really amping up the flavor profile. And that's all well and good. And some of them are quite tasty and some of them are terrible, like anything. But, there is times where you just want a beer and you don't want a super heavy stomach bomb, but this could be great. Like I see this as a total lawnmower beer, porch sipping beer, pontoon beer. It's awesome.
It is. And it's my go-to at home. Like with all our beers, like I drink them all, but it's your lawnmower beer. It's your go-to beer. We released this in the middle of the pandemic, which actually towards the beginning, I think it was like April and May of 2020 when we released it. And it's hard to get traction on a beer where you can't sample it out. Yeah. You can't do much. You can do some marketing around it. So it's a little bit of a struggle getting it known out there to people that this is it's a good beer. And I think it's a different direction in a craft beer market where you're going for, I don't want to say healthy, but it's a better option than, a triple New England milkshake IPA.
Right. Or
Which are great.
Some of the hazies too, even though they're fruitier, they're real heavy at times.
Yes. Yep. And I know when during COVID, I was up at our cabin up north of Grand Rapids, and I texted my boss. I'm like, I just drank one of these and it was hot. That 4th of July in 2020 was really hot, and I'm drinking it. It was like, I just drank this beer in 15 minutes. I texted my boss and said, this could be a dangerous thing.
Yeah, danger zone.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit more about Third Street Brewhouse, because I'm not as familiar with you guys.
Sure, because we're southwest of St. Cloud and Cold Spring. Cold Spring is a smaller town. It's a little over 4,000 people, and we're part of that kind of general St. Cloud area. So it's an interesting story, and I know I dropped you off a little bit of the history. We started brewing beer on that site in 1874. So we weren't Third Street Brewhouse then. We weren't Third Street Brewhouse until 2012. But kind of the history before 2012, there was a few different brewers, and in the late 19th century, a guy by the name of Eugene Hermanutz came out of Germany, went to school in Chicago to become a brewer, and kind of found himself in Cold Spring, and obviously a very German heritage community, and established Cold Spring Brewing Company as a big regional brand. And people that are older than 50 remember the old Cold Spring beer.
Sure.
And then we did a lot of contract brewing. In the 70s, we made the Billy beer.
Yep.
We made just a bunch of different beers. And then the 90s, they branded as Glick. They bought the Glick brand out of Minneapolis. They branded as Glick. And towards the late 90s, the brewery is really, really struggling. The original family sold it, I want to say back in it might have even been in the 50s. There's another owner, and it kind of changed hands. Unlike Shell's, which has been family owned forever, we have not. And so we've gone through a series of owners. In the 90s, a guy by the name of John Lenore bought it out of California, and he foresaw and knew the guys that were starting Monster Energy. And so he saw energy drinks and this canning lines that we had up in Cold Spring. And so he got contracts to make energy drinks. And that really got us back on our feet. And they were still brewing beer. And he decided that in 2012, he was going to commit to craft beer. The craft beer thing was just starting in the early 2000s. And so he built this beautiful brew house in 2012. And we can make really good beer. I think the reputation before was, it's beer, and it's just kind of old school beer. Now we can make really good beer. Our big flagship, of course, is Minnesota Gold Lager. And we've gone through several beers and changed. We started out in bottles, and we don't even have a bottling line anymore at Cold Spring. Beer is a very small part of what we do at Cold Spring. We are the largest independent contract co-packer in North America. So we own Texas Quality Beverage in Fort Worth and Carolina Beverage in Mooresville, North Carolina. So collectively, we're known as Carolina Beverage Group, headquartered out of Mooresville, North Carolina, but we're owned by a private equity firm out of Connecticut. So we're very open about that. We don't try to hide that, but Third Street Brewhouse is a Minnesota company, Minnesota-made beer. Cold Spring water has been famous for over a century. And so we have this, we say from the glacier to the glass. It's just a wonderful product, and it's a great brewery to work for. And I've been fortunate to work for them since 2017. And here we are.
Here we are. Do you guys have a tap room?
We do. We have a tap room right there in the brew house. It's unique because I don't think people foresaw in 2012 what was going to happen with the tap room explosion. Sure. So our tap room, unfortunately, is a little smaller than I would like, but it's really a nice place to come, and we're only open Fridays and Saturdays. Our tap room also serves as our entryway to the business.
Sure.
So our front desk is there. Amanda, our director of first impressions, is right there when you come in.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And so during normal business hours, if you're there and the tap room's not open, you're welcome to come in and stop in. Not a problem. But we're open 4:00 on Friday afternoon. And I think we're open at 1 on Saturdays. And, the other thing is we shut down early. We want to send people out to our local places too. We've got all our local establishments in Cold Spring support us. And there's some great food out there. And the sidebar is the kind of the brewery bar. It's a block away from the brewery. And so with walking distance but all those businesses support us, and it's a great little town. Lots of history in that town. There's a great museum just a half a block from the brewery that you can check out. The history of Cold Spring, and they got all kinds of history of the brewery, and even in the brewery we've got Eugene Hermanitz's personal steins that he brought over from Germany. They're absolutely beautiful.
Cool.
Historical pictures. We've got pictures of Prohibition when they were dumping out. We came out in 2017. We came out with a beer called Brewer's Tears, and it was the original recipe from 1900 that they were brewing. And we think they were still brewing it at the time. And with the changes in hops, now hops are pelletized, and back in those days they're using the full cone hops. So they had to adjust the recipe because it was like we made this great IPA, but that's not what they were drinking in 1932. So, or not 32, in 1919. So anyway, it was really cool, and we had the picture of them dumping out the beer on the front of the can, and it was really a really cool thing. USA Today picked up on it, and it was a really good beer. But it was just a one-off type beer. So, we can do some unique things, but we're too big to come out with a fancy new brew every week or every month or whatever. So, it's an interesting business. But the history of beer in Cold Spring runs deep, and it's kind of fun. We're considered a heritage brewery.
So where do you see, that's a good question, because so you're not on the Anheuser-Busch scale, but you're
absolutely not.
Somewhere in heritage wise, like Shell's would be similar in the heritage. So as you're bringing this beer to market, like what is your place? And when you go to a liquor store and try to get them to carry it, how do you sell it?
Correct. Yeah, you go in, and right now getting placements in liquor stores is crazy because liquor stores are inundated with all these people that have come out with a new seltzer. The other thing is the ready to drinks. We call them RTDs in the industry. Yep. And then your seltzers are fermented malt beverages or FMBs. So that category is growing. And if you go to liquor stores, you'll see that the seltzer doors, maybe in a smaller liquor store, there was one door. Now it's 3.
Yep.
So it's difficult. What we try to do when I go in is if I can get a placement, then I will follow it up with a sampling, and we'll have me or we have brand ambassadors that do our sampling and do beer shows and stuff for us. And we'll set up a sampling just to get it out there. And, now coming out of the pandemic, we can do more of that. It was really difficult with micro when it came out to do that. But we're going to be sampling pretty heavily this spring and summer. And I have to mention the new beer that's coming out that, I don't know if you saw the sheet that I dropped off for you, but the Minnesota Gold Micro Raspberry. So Micro Raz is coming in May. It is the same beer with raspberry flavor, 100% raspberry.
Yum.
So it changed the carbs to 2 carbs. It's still stated 88 calories. So that will be available in May, and that is going to just be a very crushable beer. And it was very unique. I love it. I'm like, now, if you're looking for that beer flavor, you're not going to notice as much in this raspberry. It is amazing. It's still 4.2 ABV. So it's just like a regular domestic light beer. So again, the brewers are amazing. Our quality team is amazing because we make all these other products. So like, the energy drinks, all this, we have to meet certain standards for those companies.
Right.
So when those big, they're national and multinational companies come in, our quality has to be there. And we have a quality team, and Johan, that is the head of our quality, is amazing. I call him Dr. Johan, even though he's not technically a doctor, but he's that smart.
Doctor of beer.
Doctor of beer. And actually, interestingly, he came up through our company. He was a brewer, was a lead brewer, and now is director of quality for all of Cold Spring. And He goes to other plants as well and helps them. So the one thing that we don't do, if a beer isn't good, we're not going to package it.
What's the marketing like for this product? Is the target women or the target men?
Well, I know some guys say, well, I don't drink beer out of a skinny can.
Yeah.
Okay, I do. The marketing, we really are hitting just the calories and carbs. Anybody, well, put it this way. I've had people who are diabetic, and I'm not saying that this is a great beer for diabetics. Check with your doctor. I'm not a doctor.
Sure.
But it is low carb. And I've had friends of mine that are diabetic, men and women, both have thanked me for this beer. So I think as a healthier option, drinking a beer that's 88 calories versus a beer that's 120 calories.
So do you guys go out and are you sponsoring events? Are you marketing at festivals? Are you really hitting the socials, and what's the strategy there?
Right. Well, our social media has been really oriented towards micro, and trying to get that out there. We've done some advertising with it. We haven't done enough. And I like my big push for this summer. And of course, I'm just a sales guy.
Sure.
I've got to deal with, the bosses and get them to agree. And I think we're doing some promotions. We're doing some promotions on premise with micro. So, we're going to be out there doing that sort of thing. Obviously I'm not so sure we're not going to be doing some billboards and things like that as well. So you've got to get that out there. And I think the most important thing is get it in people's hands.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. In the Twin Cities, where can people find it?
You can find it at most major liquor stores. Some of the smaller ones won't have it, but most of the major liquor stores will have it. Everybody, the big ones like Totals have it.
Yep.
Some of the top 10s have it. So if you look at those bigger liquor stores, they will, the bigger markets will have it.
All right. Yep. Well, I loved it. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. It's a Minnesota Gold. It's a micro brew. It is from 3rd Street Brewhouse. Again, 1.4 carbs, 88 calories, 4.2% alcohol, and a raspberry version in the future, which sounds delicious.
Yes, I'll get you some as soon as I have hands.
I really appreciate it. It's great to talk to you today.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right. See you soon.
All right. Cheers.